Senator, as a guy like you, who is very experienced in foreign policy, do you think the president is accurately portraying the concerns of Americans and 30-plus governors, and even Senator Schumer, when he says widows and orphans have you guys afraid?
It was despicable. I mean, it's just you wonder how low this president could go in his mischaracterization, his depiction of anybody that opposes him, and taking the most extreme and lowest form of rhetoric that this president has deployed. He's despicable. He's delusional in what's causing the problem. ISIS isn't fighting us because we won't take Syrian refugees. ISIS is fighting us because they hate everything we believe in. ISIS is fighting us because in their holy books it says their job is to conquer the infidels, in which we are one. That's why ISIS is fighting us. But we have a president who won't even say the word Islam, won't even say the word jihadist. This is a president who uses the term ISIS, and he doesn't even realize he's talking about the Islamic State when he says the word ISIS. So he even admits in his own rhetoric that Islam is part of it, but again, it's a delusional disconnect. And so what he has to do in his fantasy world is accuse people of things that, well, they're not advocating. No one is afraid of widows and orphans. A widow and orphan did not blow up or kill people in Paris a weekend ago. It was a ISIS plant within these groups of refugees who are coming to kill and destroy and prevent and pursue terror among the West to destroy the infidel. That's what they're doing.
With me right now, Senator Rick Santorum. Senator, I just want to get your take on that. To me, it's outrageous for the president to misportray the concerns and also bring it to the Philippines with him, when the number one issue should be Russia and France have formed an alliance to attack ISIS, a country or a confederation or a group of terrorists that we were supposedly handling and containing for the last 18 months. Are you concerned that France had to go to Russia for help?
I'm not surprised. I mean, Russia is at least leading. This president has been following. This president makes excuses for not acting. And if you look at what this president has done with ISIS, it is the worst foreign policy in the history of America. The president's policy toward ISIS is to contain ISIS. ISIS's policy, in order to gain credibility as a caliphate in the Middle East and around the world, is to maintain their territorial integrity. Just let me repeat that. The president's policy is to keep ISIS within their bounds. ISIS's objective is to keep their territorial integrity. Now, what does that sound like? It sounds like President Obama is in cahoots with the strategy of ISIS to maintain their territorial integrity, and he doesn't realize by having this strategy, he provides the greatest recruitment tool for ISIS, which is America is fighting us, and we are maintaining our territorial integrity, and we are winning this battle. The president is helping ISIS every single day by the policies we have, and he doesn't even know it because he refuses to accept reality that ISIS is a caliphate. ISIS is using a 7th century textbook to operate this war, and unless we understand it and we fight against a strategy against it, we are going to lose this battle.
I got to tell you, Mike Burrell, the former deputy director of the CIA, who was the briefer for President Obama and President Bush, just joined us. Here's what he said is the goal of this caliphate. Cut 39.
ISIS is not only a terrorist group, it is also a revolutionary political movement, right? And what they want is not just their caliphate in Iraq and Syria, right? They're not just going to be happy with that. They want a caliphate everywhere in the world. They want a caliphate here, where we would live under their extreme religious views. And that extremist ideology, that revolutionary political ideology, is spreading like wildfire. There are militant groups and extremist groups in 20 countries now that have signed up to the ISIS philosophy. So world war, yeah, it sounds right to me.
Listen, he used to brief President Obama, and that's what he's saying now.
He obviously didn't listen. I mean, look, the reality is that ISIS is using a playbook out of the 7th century. All we need to do is recognize that this is a Islamic group, and they're using Islamic texts, and the Islamic texts say that the goal of a caliphate is to be global, is to bring the final revelation to the world, and ISIS is intent on doing so. For the president to treat ISIS as a JV team, to treat ISIS as non-Islamic, because we don't want to offend any Muslims, is deadly. It is killing people. It is causing ISIS to be successful in recruiting people that will cause the more death of people in the West, including here in the United States. This president is aiding and abetting the enemy by having a policy that does not try to destroy their caliphate, that does not try to take their land. As a policy of a containment is working in concert with ISIS to accomplish their goals.
Senator Rick Santorum with us right now, running for president, as is Ben Carson. Now, Ben Carson is leading in some polls, second in most polls. I think he's up at the top spot in Iowa, a caucus state that you won last time. A lot of people, including his own staff, are pointing out how inexperienced he is when it comes to foreign policy. Here might be an example. Cut 35.
The Syrians have sophisticated Chinese weaponry. That's the basis of it. And that sophisticated Chinese weaponry requires support in order to utilize it.
And where are you getting that information from? Who's been advising you on that matter?
My advisors. I have advisors who are former military people and advisors who are former CIA people.
His own there's no proof of that, and his own people kind of made him look bad in today's New York Times. What do you think about Ben Carson's foreign policy?
Look, I think commander-in-chief is not an entry-level position, and there are very few people in this race. In fact, only a couple in this race who have really any substantial national security experience. Whoever's the nominee of the Republican Party is going to be going up against the Secretary of State. Whether you like it or not, she knows this stuff. She's lived this stuff. She's experienced that. She's been wrong. But unless you're someone who has that depth of experience and that people can trust, this is a time when I believe that our country is going to be on the brink, if not in a war, and they're going to look for someone who they can have trust in as commander-in-chief. We cannot be taking the most important election in our lifetime and putting it in the hands of someone who's, number one, never run a race before, and number two, has no experience in dealing with these most critical issues of keeping America safe. So one of the reasons I'm out here on a tour in Iowa right now, calling our safety and security tour, this is a time for people to get serious about who the presidential nominee should be, to go up against Hillary Clinton, and more importantly, to go up against Vladimir Putin, the mullahs, and al-Baghdadi, to confront them and win a decisive victory for the West and for the United States.
Were you surprised Bobby Jindal dropped out yesterday?
I was. I mean, Bobby's been really working hard. I know here in Iowa, we put in more stops here than anybody else, but he was a very close second, and people like him out here. He's a strong, principled conservative, and I'm surprised he dropped out. But I'll be very honest with you. I think it's probably a great benefit to us. I mean, we were out here talking to folks, and Jindal was certainly on a lot of people's lists out here that we were talking to. So the fact that he's not on that list anymore is I think a real boost to our campaign here in Iowa.
Do you believe you're going to feel it right away? As you know, you got to win people over literally house by house. Do you believe that there are a lot of people who had Rick Santorum number 2 and Jindal number 1, because he was up to, I think, 6% in the state?
Yeah, we know that. In fact, my team told me that we had 120-some people that we had called who were caucus captains for us last time, who said that they were leaning toward Jindal, so that gives us but we were second, but they were leaning toward Jindal at the moment. And here's what I know, Brian, that over 50% of the people who voted for me last time decided in the last 3 days, and in fact, a third of the folks who voted for me last time decided on caucus night. And with more candidates in the race than there were last time, I think there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to wait till the very last minute. That's why I have a lot of confidence. We go out there and continue to work hard. We've got the strongest message on national security. We can differentiate ourselves from the field at a time when it's vitally important to have someone who understands this issue, understands the enemy, and frankly, that the enemy knows who I am. As you know, Brian, I mean, I was in ISIS magazine 7 months ago. under a headline, in the words of our enemy. They had a quote of me and a picture of me. Just knows who I am. Iran knows who I am. I've been doing this for a dozen years, fighting against radical Islam, and I've got a track record that I can put up against Hillary Clinton, who was on the wrong side of a lot of these issues when I was in the Senate, when I was fighting for sanctions on nuclear Iran. Hillary Clinton was on the other side. Those are the kinds of things we can bring up at debates. Those are the kinds of, the track record that we can show as someone who won't keep this country safe versus someone who's been on the cutting edge.
Senator Rick Santorum doing the blue-collar work, talking about blue-collar workers. That was your book about right before you launched. So
That's
if
right.
you want to know what you stand for, go there.
We got a message both for, here at home to create a more prosperous America, better America, and a safer America with someone who's going to make this country strong again. And like I said, I sort of consider this time in a campaign sort of entertainment time. People get down to the serious business of picking who the president should be. You'll look at experience, you'll look at track record, you'll look at success, electability, all those things. And so you go to ricksantorum.com and help us out. We'd appreciate it.
Go get him, Rick. Thanks so much, Senator.